Imagine you receive a long-awaited raise and behind the wall your loved ones are already sharing your salary. Our heroine accidentally heard how her husband and mother-in-law are planning their family budget through her wallet. But when she proposed her plan to distribute finances, these two literally took it literally. Good day, dear listeners. The channel Blood and Blood is with you. And my new author's story. I apologize for possible errors in the impressions. I am still on the way to perfection. And your like is my only motivator not to give up. Enjoy listening. Alla Romanovna Sinichkina woke up on Thursday with that special premonition which happens only before important events. As if the air in the apartment became denser and the morning coffee more fragrant. She stood in front of the mirror for a long time, correcting the collar of her blouse and whispered to herself under her nose, "Today, Alla, today." On the bus on the way to work, she thoughtfully rehearsed a conversation with her boss. For 3 years she was the head of the Alpha Stray company. For 3 years she was the first to come and the last to leave. For 3 years she was in charge of the customers' whims and was 120% full-time. Yesterday Natalia Igorevna, the head of staff, mysteriously smiled and asked to come to her after lunch. On an important matter, she added. And Alla immediately understood it was her. The office met her with its usual fuss. Colleagues were sitting at their computers, clicking their mice and rustling their papers. Alla sat down at her table and tried to focus on the reports, but her thoughts were running out. She briefly looked at the clock. 4 hours remained before lunch. Are you not in yourself today? Oksana from the neighboring department noticed, looking at her with a cup of tea. What a sullen face. No, everything is as usual, said Alla, but inside she sang everything with anticipation. Time was running unbearably slowly. Phone calls, email, meetings with clients, all this was passing by, as if in a fog. Alla mechanically fulfilled her duties and in her head she was already making plans. If they give her a raise and with it an increase in her salary, she will finally be able to afford what she dreamed of for months. She especially dreamed of saps. The ones that are on her now were bought 2 years ago for sale, a cheap leather substitute for a dowry. The sole has already begun to peel off, and in the rain, the legs were soaked through. Alla saw in the shop window on the next street beautiful natural leather boots, elegant, on a stable heel with a beautiful line. They cost almost half of her salary, but now they may become available. And also a vacation. For 2 years she didn't go further than her aunt's dacha in the Moscow region. She wanted to go to the sea, to the mountains, just somewhere where no one would ask her when she would come back and how much money she had spent. Igor always grumbled when she talked about traveling. And Regina Mikhailovna directly stated that throwing money into the wind is stupid. Finally, the clock hands showed 2. Alla got up from the table, straightened her shoulders and headed to Natalia Igorevna's office. Her heart was pounding so loudly that it seemed to be heard in the neighboring offices. Come in, Alla Romanovna, the director smiled, pointing to the chair opposite her table. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The next half an hour flew by like a flash. Natalia Igorevna talked about the production performance, about the trust of the management, about new prospects. Alla listened, trying not to give out her excitement, but inside she was already celebrating. The leading manager, sales department, an increase to the salary of 30,000 rubles, a separate office, all this sounded like music. Congratulations, Natalia Igorevna said, stretching her hand. You deserve it. Alla shook her hand, trying not to melt in a grateful smile. Warmness was pouring down in her chest, and numbers were already circling in her head. 30,000 more. That's a whole state. You can not only buy boots, but also put them on vacation and even afford something else. The rest of the working day passed in pleasant fog. Colleagues congratulated, someone even brought a cake from the confectionery. Alla received congratulations, answered questions, but was already mentally at home, imagining how the news will tell the family. Igor is happy, of course. They have been together for 5 years and he has always supported her career ambitions. True, recently he has become somewhat detached, but this is probably from fatigue at work. But Regina Mikhailovna, with her mother-in-law, it's more difficult. She generally believes that women don't need to earn too much, it's men should keep the family. But still, the news is good. And even Regina Mikhailovna won't be able to spoil it. In the bus home, Alla looked at the shop windows with completely different eyes. Now a lot of what was previously inaccessible has become reality. She even went to the shoe store and tried on the same boots. The seller, noticing her delight, tactfully hinted that a new collection was expected to arrive in a week. "I'll think about it," said Alla, but in fact she had already decided. She will definitely buy, and not only boots. At home, it smelled of borscht and fried potatoes. Igor was sitting in the living room in front of the TV, and Regina Mikhailovna was rumbling the dishes in the kitchen. A typical evening routine, but today she seemed especially cozy to Alla. "Igor, I have news," she announced, throwing her jacket into the hallway. Her husband turned around, not turning off the TV. They were shooting some kind of talk show on the screen, where the participants fiercely argued about something important. "What news?" he asked, scattered. "I was given an increase." Alla could not hold her smile. "Can you imagine? I am now a leading manager and the salary is more than 30,000. Igor nodded, but did not show any special enthusiasm. He just said, "Well, well done." And again he was stuck on the screen. Alla felt a slight shock of disappointment, but decided not to pay attention. Maybe he was just tired. Regina Mikhailovna, hearing the voices, came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her forehead. The woman was 55 years old, with a strong figure and always unhappy expression of the face. Her grey hair was neatly laid into a hairstyle, and beads were glittered on her neck. The only decoration she wore constantly. "Regina Mikhailovna," Alla addressed her, "have you heard? They raised my salary." The mother-in-law looked at her with her cold eyes and glanced at something incomprehensible. Then she turned around and went back to the kitchen, not even congratulating. Alla looked at her husband confusedly, but he seemed to have not noticed her mother's impolite behavior. "Okay," she said to herself. "The main thing is that I am happy myself." After dinner, Alla tried to tell the details of her promotion, but the conversation did not stick. Igor mechanically chewed potatoes and nodded occasionally, and Regina Mikhailovna was silent at all, only occasionally throwing strange glances at the bride. As if she was assessing something, pretending. After dinner, Alla washed the dishes and decided to take a bath. She wanted to relax, think about plans for the future. Maybe tomorrow she will go to the tourist agency, look at the tickets. Turkey, Greece, Egypt. All this now seemed like an unbearable dream. Lying in warm water, she imagined what it would look like in new boots, how it would sunbathe on the beach, how she would finally feel like a successful woman. 5 years of marriage, 5 years she saved on everything, giving most of her salary to family needs. Now she could afford more. She came out of the bathroom at about 10 p.m. and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. The apartment was quiet, only the muffled voices from the living room could be heard. Alla was about to pass by when she heard a familiar laugh. Regina Mikhailovna laughed, quiet, happy, almost childish. Such a laugh only happened to her when she was especially happy with herself. Alla involuntarily slowed down her step. "Now you can make more than 30 pieces of this full a month." The voice of the mother-in-law reached her. Alla froze like a dead woman. Her heart missed the blow, and her ears rumbled. She could not believe what she had just heard. "Yes, Mom," Igor called out. "An increase, by the way. We need money ourselves." "That's right," Regina Mikhailovna continued, and her voice heard self-satisfaction. "Let the courier man build it from herself, and we'll take ours." She still won't guess. Alla felt how everything was cold inside, her hands were shaking, and her mouth was dry. She stood in the corridor, leaning against the wall, and could not move. So here's how it is, here's what they think about her. A doina cow. A fool with whom you can make money. She remembered how she was happy with the promotion, how she was building plans, how she wanted to share her joy with her family. And all this time they were thinking only about how much extra money they could get from her. "It's good that she is so naive," Regina Mikhailovna continued. "She won't even ask what we are spending money on." "Aha," Igor agreed. "The main thing is that she doesn't start to show off." And then she suddenly wants to go on a vacation. Where to? The mother-in-law whispered. I will quickly explain to her that the family is more important than any nonsense. Ella slowly went to the kitchen, poured water and drank a lot. Then another glass. Her hands were still shaking and only one thing was spinning in her head, fool. A stinking cow. Fool. She looked at herself in the reflection of the refrigerator. Ordinary face, ordinary woman, who gave her family everything she earned for 5 years, who saved on herself to buy Igor a new suit or pay Regina Mikhailovna expensive medicines, who dreamed of boots for 2 years, but could not buy them because family needs are more important, and they considered her a fool. Alla returned to her bedroom, lay down on her bed and looked at the ceiling for a long time. Igor came back in an hour, lay down next to her and fell asleep quickly. She listened to his gentle breathing and thought, by morning the plan has come to life. If they consider her a guinea pig, then let them get the appropriate treatment. She will show them what it means to be a real beast. The game is over. Alla woke up on Friday with a feeling that something had changed inside her forever. The dream was restless, full of the shortcomings of yesterday's conversation, and by morning a plan had finally been formed in her head. She lay in bed, listening to Igor getting ready for work, and mentally rehearsed the upcoming conversation. Alla, get up. Breakfast is ready. Regina Mikhailovna shouted from the kitchen. Usually Alla immediately jumped in a hurry to work. But today she slowly got up, put on her clothes and went out to the family with such a face expression as if she were going to important negotiations. The usual morning fuss reigned over the table. Igor was chewing on a sandwich, watching the news on the phone. Regina Mikhailovna was fussing with a teapot. The idol of family breakfast, if you don't know what these people think of you. Igor, said Alla in a calm voice, I need to talk to you. Her husband raised his eyes from the phone. Something in her tone made him be wary. About what? About the fact that I accidentally overheard your conversation with your mother yesterday. Igor became pale. Regina Mikhailovna froze with a kettle in her hands. What conversation? Igor tried to make an innocent face. About 30 pieces that can be given away. Alla said it without emotions as a sign of the weather. It was very informative to find out what you think of me. There was silence. Regina Mikhailovna put the kettle on the table with a loud knock. Did you listen? She was indignant. I went to the kitchen for water, Alla calmly answered. And you didn't take care to speak quietly. However, it doesn't matter anymore. Igor tried to say something, but Alla raised her hand. Don't be sorry, I understood everything. Since you consider me a guinea pig, you will receive the appropriate treatment. I thought all night and decided to work only for food and a roof over my head from now on, like a real beast. What are you carrying? Igor asked confusedly. And the fact that my salary now belongs only to me. Alla stood up from the table. Did you want a milking cow? Get it. But cows, you know, don't cook borscht and don't buy food in the store. They only eat grass and give milk. And I don't have milk. Regina Mikhailovna jumped from the place. Did you really get angry? Family is when they call each other fools behind their backs, Alla interrupted her. And what we have is called differently. She went to the hallway, put on her jacket and turned around on the threshold. Oh yes, I almost forgot. Igor, your breakfast is in the bowl on the floor. Animals are not fed with their hands. The door slammed, leaving the family in complete confusion. At work, Alla was focused and productive as never before. Colleagues noted her special calmness, bordering on determination. She smiled, answered questions, worked with documents, but inside she felt cold and clear, as in a well-tuned mechanism. In the afternoon break, she went to the bank and opened a new account. From now on, the salary will go there. Then she looked into the shoe store and tried on the same boots. The seller recognized her. Have you decided? She asked. Yes, said Alla. I'll take it. The boots cost 28,000. Before, such a cost seemed to her madness. Now she paid with a card without blinking an eye. She returned home in new boots. Igor sat in the living room with a gloomy face, and Regina Mikhailovna nervously walked around the room. Are you kidding me? Her husband pounced on her. What bowl is on the floor? Aren't cows fed from bowls? Alla was sincerely surprised. Or have you changed your mind to consider me a beast? Alla, stop fooling around. Regina Mikhailovna intervened. You are an adult woman and you behave like a child. An adult woman. Alla sat down on a jacket and looked at the bloodstain from the bottom up. But yesterday I was a fool who could be given money. Decide who I am. Regina Mikhailovna blushed. I didn't mean it. What did you mean? Alla got up and came closer. Please explain what it means to give money from a fool. It's just. Bloodstain was covered. Well, we are a family, we must help each other. Help, nodded Alla. I see. So when I gave you most of your salary for 5 years, it was help. And when you decided that now you could take even more from me, is that also help? Don't overdo it, indignantly said Igor. I'm not overdoing it. I'm just trying to understand the logic. If I'm a gullible cow, I'll behave accordingly. The cows don't cook dinner, don't wash the laundry, and don't buy food. They only eat and give milk. And since I don't have milk, I can only eat. She went to the kitchen, took an apple out of the fridge and crunched it loudly. By the way, she said, gnawing, I'm going to the tour agency tomorrow. I want to see the trips to Turkey. The cows, of course, don't travel, but I'm still in the transition period. Regina Mikhailovna sighed in indignation. What Turkey? We have problems at home. The roof is leaking, the batteries need to be changed. And you think about Turkey? What does it have to do with us? Alla was surprised. These are your problems. I am just a cow that lives in a barn. The owners are responsible for the state of the barn. Alla! Igor shouted. Stop this theater immediately. It's not a theater, she calmly answered. It's a logical consequence of your words. You wanted a dead cow. You will get a dead cow. With all the consequences. Regina Mikhailovna grabbed the carpenter from the table and waved at Alla. Oh, you ungrateful. Alla grabbed her hand and pushed it sharply. Regina Mikhailovna leapt down with the chair, crashing loudly on the floor. Careful, said Alla, looking down at her. Cows have hooves and they can lie down. Igor rushed to lift his mother. What are you doing? She is an old woman. The old woman, who had just tried to hit me with a plow, clarified Alla, if she is strong enough to attack, then she is strong enough to keep balance. Regina Mikhailovna got up, holding the table. Her face was full of rage. I will not forgive you, she whispered. And I don't need your forgiveness, said Alla. I only need one thing, that you decide who I am. If I am a member of the family, then I asked for the appropriate attitude. If I am a herdsman, then get a full set of cow behavior. Okay, said Igor, trying to speak calmly. Okay, we are hot-headed. Let's discuss it like adults. Let's discuss it, said Alla. But first I need to hear an apology, and not a formal one, but a sincere one, with an explanation of what exactly you meant and why it was wrong. I'm not going to apologize, said Regina Mikhailovna. This is my home, and I will say what I want. Your home? Asked Alla. Interesting. And who pays for utilities? Who buys food? Who pays for your medicines? You live here for free, the mother-in-law said. For free? Alla laughed. I pay for half of all expenses, plus I buy food, plus I pay for most of the utilities. How is it for free? Okay, Igor intervened. Mom, you really got hot. Alla, forgive her, she didn't want to offend you. I wanted to, Regina Mikhailovna gurgled. And I'll offend her again if she behaves like that. Alla looked at her husband. You see, sincerity is obvious. So the conversation is over. I'm going to take a bath and you can continue to discuss how to give birth to a pregnant cow. Where are you going? Shouted Regina Mikhailovna. Who will cook dinner? I don't know, replied Alla from the corridor. But not the cow, for the cow doesn't cook. The bathroom door slammed, leaving Igor and his mother in complete confusion. What are we going to do? Asked Igor. I don't know, answered Regina Mikhailovna. But we can't leave her like that, she's completely exhausted. In the kitchen, they found a bowl with the remains of the morning porridge on the floor. Igor looked at her for a long time and then silently put it in the sink. Mom, he said quietly, maybe we really got hot. Don't start, Regina Mikhailovna tore it off. She must know her place. But she's right, we really counted on her money. And what's wrong with that? The family must help each other and she thinks only about herself. Igor wanted to object, but he kept silent. Deep down, he understood that his wife was right. But to admit it meant to stand up against his mother, and he was not ready for that. The water was running out from the bathtub. Alla was clearly in no hurry. And Igor and Regina Mikhailovna, who were used to the fact that dinner appeared to themselves, were standing in the kitchen. Okay, said Regina Mikhailovna, I'll cook today, but tomorrow she'll cook as usual. I don't think so, said Igor, looking at the new wife's boots left in the hallway. Something told him that tomorrow would be even worse. Saturday started with Alla waking up at 7 a.m., as usual, but instead of going to the kitchen to cook breakfast, she lay back in bed with the book. Igor lay next to her, pretending to be asleep, but his tense breathing made it clear that he was not sleeping for a long time. The kitchen was filled with the sounds of a fire. Regina Mikhailovna tried to cook something on her own. Alla heard her growl at the frying pans, she was swearing under her nose and was knocking on the doors of the cabinets. Alla! Igor quietly called. Maybe it's enough already. Mom was upset. Upset? Alla did not raise her eyes from the book. And when I was upset, knowing that I was considered a fool, it didn't matter. She didn't want to offend you. Igor, Alla finally looked at him. You yourself agreed yesterday that I could be more depressed. This is also an accident. Igor blushed and turned to the wall. I didn't mean that. What did you mean? Please explain to me. Well, we are a family, we must help each other. My mother has a small pension, my salary is not very high. And now you have an increase, so I must support both of you, Alla clarified. Not support, but help. Igor, I have been helping for 5 years. I give you 70% of my salary, buy groceries, pay for utilities, buy your mother medicine. In these 5 years I bought myself one dress and a pair of shoes. One, Igor, and that after the old ones finally fell apart. But we didn't force you to. Didn't force you. Alla sat in bed. Do you remember what your mother said when I wanted to buy myself a winter coat? To spend money on a rag when you need so much in the house. And when I wanted to sign up for English courses. Family is more important than any nonsense. And when I offered to go to the sea. Only a selfish woman can think about entertainment when her loved ones need help. Igor kept silent. So, said Alla, now everything has changed. Since I am a gullible cow, I will behave accordingly. And cows, by the way, are very selfish animals. She got up, put on her robe and went to the bathroom. Igor stayed to lie down, looking at the ceiling. A surprise awaited them in the kitchen. Regina Mikhailovna sat at the table with a gloomy face, and a frying pan with burnt eggs was smoking on the stove. The smell was appropriate. Good morning, Alla said vigorously, opening the refrigerator. How are things in the kitchen? You see for yourself, the mother-in-law grumbled. I can't cook. I should have studied earlier, Alla sympathized, taking out yogurt. A useful skill in the household. I have been cooking for a family for 30 years, Regina Mikhailovna was outraged. And now I have arthritis, my back hurts. 30 years have been cooking for a family, Alla nodded. And I'm not a family, I'm a charity cow. Cows don't cook, you established it yourself. Regina Mikhailovna stood up and demonstratively threw the burnt eggs into a trash can. Okay, she said, if you don't want to cook, you won't eat. I'll hide all the food now and see how long you can hold on. Interesting idea, Alla approved. Just keep in mind that I buy the food. Accordingly, the right to order them also belongs to me. This is my house and I will be in charge of what is in it, said Regina Mikhailovna. Your house? Asked Alla. And where are the documents for the apartment? What documents? The mother-in-law was confused. Documents on ownership. Igor, please bring evidence of ownership. Igor reluctantly went to the bedroom and returned with a folder of documents. Alla took a witness and showed it to Regina Mikhailovna. See, she said, the owners are Sinichkin Igor Viktorovich and Sinichkina Alla Romanovna. Half of each. Where is it written here, Sinichkina Regina Mikhailovna? The mother-in-law became pale. But I've been living here for 20 years. Do you live here? Alla agreed. For the sake of kindness, but it does not give you the right to own an apartment and what is in it. Igor, Regina Mikhailovna called her son. What, will you let her talk to me like that? Igor stood in the middle of the kitchen, thinking hard about what to say. On the one hand, the mother he was used to protecting. On the other, the wife who was absolutely right in law. Mom, he said at last, Alla is right. Our apartment is common. Our? Regina Mikhailovna asked. And who am I? A homeless dog. You are a person who lives in our apartment for free, Alla answered for Igor. And if you want to live here, then be kind to follow the rules. And the rules are simple, do not get into other people's business and do not call the owner of the apartment a fool. Regina Mikhailovna sighed in indignation. I will not allow myself to be humiliated like this. No one humiliates you, Alla answered calmly. I just remind you of the real situation of things. If you want to have breakfast, cook yourself. If you want to hide food, please, but only the one you buy for your money. She finished her yogurt and went to get dressed. I'm going to a tourist agency, she said. Then to the mall. I'll look at some addresses. Maybe I'll buy something for my vacation. What vacation? Said Igor. We don't have money for a vacation. You don't, said Alla. But I have. My salary is my vacation. But we are husband and wife, Igor desperately exclaimed. Husband and wife, said Alla. But yesterday I learned that I am a herding cow for you. Cows don't go on vacation, but they spend money on themselves. She left, leaving the family in complete confusion. In the tourist agency, Alla spent 2 hours studying the proposal. Turkey, Greece, Cyprus, all this now seemed accessible. The manager, a young girl with burning eyes, enthusiastically told about various tours. Will you go alone? She asked. Alone, Alla confirmed. I need a family vacation. I understand, the girl nodded sympathetically. We have special tours for lonely travelers. It's very popular now. A surprise was waiting for her at home. Regina Mikhailovna really hid all the food. The refrigerator was empty, the cabinets were locked. Well, what? The mother-in-law said solemnly. Now let's talk differently. Of course, Alla agreed. Only first I need to do something. She went to the bedroom and came back with a big box. These were the medicines of Regina Mikhailovna, expensive heart drugs that Alla bought every month. What are you doing? The mother-in-law asked in fright. Cows don't know how to take pills, explained Alla, opening the first package. They eat everything in a row. And she demonstratively swallowed a few pills. You're crazy. Regina Mikhailovna shouted. These are my medicines. They were yours, said Alla, swallowing another pill. But I bought them for my money. So I can eat them. Igor, the mother-in-law yelled. Stop her. But Igor stood there, paralyzed. Alla, meanwhile, methodically took the medicine one by one. Enough, said Regina Mikhailovna. I'll open the refrigerator. No need, said Alla, chewing another pill. I like this taste. Sour, but it compensates for the taste of freedom. Alla, you can poison yourself. Finally, Igor came to his senses. Do not worry, his wife calmed him down. Cows are lively. And if anything, you'll call an ambulance. There will be a reason to tell the doctors that my wife ate medicine because her mother-in-law hid food. Regina Mikhailovna rushed to the refrigerator and began to hurriedly lay out the products. Here, take what you want. Just stop eating pills. Thank you, Alla politely said, putting the box away. But I've already eaten. Although a little unusual, but satisfying. She went to the living room and turned on the TV. Regina Mikhailovna and Igor looked over. Mom. Igor said quietly. Maybe it's enough already. She can hurt herself. It's her on purpose. The mother-in-law hissed. She pretends to be crazy to scare us. What if she doesn't pretend? Igor asked. This question hung in the air without an answer. In the evening, Alla prepared dinner, but only for herself. Made a salad, fried fish, boiled rice, sat down at the table and began to eat, not paying attention to the hungry eyes of the housekeepers. Maybe you can share. Robko asked Igor. Cows do not share, answered Alla. They eat as much as they need to produce milk, and since I don't have milk, I eat only to support life. Alla, said Igor, we can agree. What do you want to hear? I want to hear sincere apologies from both of you, explaining that it was you who did it wrong, and promising that this will not happen again. Okay, said Igor, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken so disrespectfully about you. Go on, asked Alla. I was wrong when I thought only about money. You do a lot for us and we perceived it as a duty. It's better now, said Alla. Now it's your turn, Regina Mikhailovna. The mother-in-law kept silent, turning her daughter-in-law with an angry look. I'm not going to apologize, she finally said. Not in front of such a cow? Alla suggested. Yes, said Regina Mikhailovna. That's right, you're behaving like a real beast. Excellent, said Alla, getting up from behind the table. So let's continue the game. Tomorrow is Sunday and I plan to completely devote it to cow behavior. She removed her plate and went to the bedroom. What does she mean? Whispered Igor. I don't know, answered Regina Mikhailovna, but I'm afraid tomorrow will be even worse. And she was not mistaken. Sunday began with Alla waking up at 5 a.m. and turning on the music to full volume. Neighbors began knocking on the walls and Igor and Regina Mikhailovna woke up with frightened faces. What's going on? Igor shouted, running out of the bedroom. The cows are getting up early, explained Alla, dancing to the music. And they don't care who sleeps next door. Turn it off immediately, asked Regina Mikhailovna. I can't, said Alla. The cows have no fingers, only hooves. And she demonstrated how hooves can be turned on even louder. Igor rushed to the tape recorder, but Alla pushed him away. Don't touch my things, she warned. Hooves can be painful. Neighbors will complain, said Regina Mikhailovna. Let them complain, Alla answered indifferently. Tell them that a cow has been born in your house. They will understand. At 10 a.m., the neighbors really came to complain. Alla met them in the door with the most innocent look. Excuse me, she said, but it's not me. It's my housekeepers who consider me a cow. So I behave accordingly. The neighbors, not understanding, looked over. Cows, you know, animals are not very cultured, continued Alla. They don't understand what a quiet hour is in respect for others. Alla, hissed Igor, appearing behind her back. Excuse me, he turned to the neighbors. The wife is a little nervous. I'm not nervous, said Alla. I just behave like a beast. Did you want that? The neighbors left, shaking their heads. Regina Mikhailovna locked herself in her room and cried in her pillow. Alla, said Igor, when they were alone, enough. I understood, we were wrong. What else should we do? Your mother should apologize, replied Allah. Honestly apologize and promise not to call me a fool anymore. She is proud, and I am offended, interrupted Allah. And until she apologizes, I will continue to demonstrate what it means to be a gullible cow. Igor went to persuade his mother. The conversation was long and loud. Allah heard Regina Mikhailovna screaming that she would not allow herself to be humiliated before this jump. In the evening on Sunday, a fracture occurred. Allah accidentally broke the beloved service of her mother-in-law, the one that Regina Mikhailovna saved for special occasions. The plates flew all over the kitchen, and Allah, with an innocent look, explained that she wanted to drink from the plate like a real cow. Regina Mikhailovna grabbed the heart and fell on the chair. Heart, she whispered. Igor, heart. Igor called an ambulance. The doctors came quickly, gave a shot and measured the pressure for a long time. Nervous overstress, the doctor said. At your age, it's dangerous. You need to avoid stress. When the doctors left, Igor turned to his wife. Are you happy? He asked quietly. I'm not happy, said Allah. I'm seeking justice. Do you want me to behave like a human? Treat me like a human. Enough, Igor exploded. Get out of my house. Comma. Regina Mikhailovna was lying on the couch, pale and weak. She listened to this conversation and understood that she was losing. Okay, she whispered. Forgive me, I was wrong. What exactly did you do wrong? Allah clarified. I called you a fool and planned to take your money. And you won't do it again. I won't, Regina Mikhailovna quietly answered. Great, Allah said. Then tomorrow morning I will become a human again. But with the first insult or disrespect, I will turn back into a cow. For a long time. She went to the bedroom, leaving the family to digest the herd. The war was won, but at what price? Monday began with a show of politeness. Regina Mikhailovna got up early, prepared breakfast and covered the table with such care as if she were waiting for an inspection. Allah went down to the kitchen and found a perfectly served table with her favorite dishes. Good morning, Alla Romanovna, said the mother-in-law, not raising her eyes. Breakfast is ready. Thank you, answered Alla, sitting at the table. She saw how Regina Mikhailovna's shoulders were tense, how her hands were cramping. The victory was complete, but it did not bring joy. Igor sat silently, chewing on his sandwich and avoiding looking at his wife. In a week he was lying down, dark circles lay under his eyes. Every evening he came home later, and on weekends he found reasons to go to his friends. I will go to my sister, Regina Mikhailovna announced when they finished their breakfast. For a long time. Okay, Alla nodded. When? Today. Igor will help with things. They spoke like strangers, exchanged polite phrases, but there was such tension in the air that it was difficult to breathe. Allah understood that this was not reconciliation, but capitulation. Regina Mikhailovna did not forgive her. She did not understand, did not accept. She just gave up. In the afternoon, Igor brought a car and they began to load things into the blood. Allah offered to help, but Regina Mikhailovna silently shook her head. She was collecting her life in suitcases and boxes, and each item seemed to have cut off a piece of her soul. Don't forget the medicine, Allah reminded herself, stretching the box with the drugs. I bought new ones, for a month. Regina Mikhailovna took the box and their fingers accidentally touched. The hands of the mother-in-law were cold and trembling. Thank you, she whispered, and in this word there was so much pain that Allah felt a stab in the heart. When the car left, the apartment seemed huge and empty. Allah walked around the rooms, but the silence pressed on her. She turned on the TV, but the sound seemed unnatural loud. She brewed tea, but it was bitter. Igor returned late in the evening, silently had dinner and went to bed. Allah was lying next to him, listening to his breathing and realizing that a wall grew between them. He did not say this out loud, but she felt his silent accusation, you brought my mother to a heart attack. Tamara Vyacheslavovna, Regina Mikhailovna's sister, met her without enthusiasm. She lived in a two-room apartment alone, had long been a widow, and got used to silence and order. The appearance of a sister with suitcases and endless complaints about her ungrateful bride has broken her measured life. "Well, are you family villains again?" asked Tamara Vyacheslavovna, helping to carry things. "She drove me out," exclaimed Regina Mikhailovna. "She drove a family member out of the house, and Igor did not even step in." "How did she drive you out?" surprised Tamara Vyacheslavovna. "Is Igor's apartment here?" "It turns out that half of it is also recorded on it," Regina Mikhailovna explained in a gloomy voice. "She says I'm not the host here." Tamara Vyacheslavovna was stunned. She knew her sister from childhood and understood that in any conflict Regina Mikhailovna would only tell her version of the events. "And what did you do? Why did she get so angry?" she asked directly. "Nothing special," Regina Mikhailovna muttered. "She just said that now she could make more money. She got an increase." "What did she say?" Tamara Vyacheslavovna clarified. "Well, in a conversation with Igor. She joked that you can make more money from a fool." "Did she joke about it?" "No, she was listening." Tamara Vyacheslavovna sighed. She began to understand what had happened. "Riga," she said, "I'm tired. You understand that you can't say such things, especially about a person who holds you in the back." "Holds me in the back?" Regina Mikhailovna was outraged. "I'm not a beggar. I have a pension." "A pension of 11,000, her sister reminded her. "And how much do utilities cost? And medicine? And food?" Regina Mikhailovna kept silent. She didn't want to admit the obvious. Days passed and the atmosphere in Tamara Vyacheslavovna's apartment was burning. Regina Mikhailovna could not get used to a foreign home, to foreign rules. She got up early, made noise in the kitchen, turned on the TV loudly. Her sister, who was used to a quiet life, was nervous. "Maybe you can make up with your fiancé," Tamara Vyacheslavovna offered in a week. "Do you admit that I was wrong?" "Never," Regina Mikhailovna cut off. "I will not be humiliated by this jump." "Then look for another place," said the sister. "I can't stand such a situation for long." In the apartment of Alla and Igor, it was also uneasy. The husband was more and more locked up in himself, came home late and often with the smell of alcohol. Alla tried to talk to him, but he answered unquestioningly and avoided her gaze. "Igor," she said one evening, "we have to talk." "About what?" he asked, not moving away from the TV. "About us. About what is happening in our family." "Family?" He laughed bitterly. "We don't have a family. You destroyed it." "I destroyed it." Alla sat next to him. "Igor, do you remember where it all started?" "I do." "You listened to our conversation. I accidentally heard you discussing me, how you plan to give me money." "We didn't plan to give you," Igor said tiredly. "We were just glad that we would have more money, at my expense, without discussing with me." "And what to discuss here?" Igor whispered to him. "We are a family must help each other. A family must respect each other," Alla said, "not call fools behind their backs." "Okay, we were wrong," Igor admitted. "But you could have just said that you were offended." "Why did you have to organize this circus?" "Because you haven't heard simple words for 5 years," Alla answered. "I said that it's hard for me to support the whole family, that I sometimes want to spend money on myself, that I need rest." "You didn't listen to me." "But Mom is sick now, her heart." "Her heart was sick even earlier," said Alla. "But it didn't give her the right to insult me." Igor stood up and came to the window. "She is my mother," he said quietly. "The only mother. And you kicked her out." "I didn't kick her out, she left on her own. After you brought her to a heart attack." "Igor," Alla also stood up. "I did not lead her to the attack. She herself brought herself to her stubbornness. I asked only one thing, sorry, sincere apologies." She apologized. She said the words, but did not repent. Did you see how she looked at me? Igor was silent. He really saw the look of his mother, full of hatred and thirst for revenge. What now? He finally asked. I don't know, said Alla honestly. It all depends on you. You have to choose, either you are my husband and then we build our family on the basis of mutual respect, or you are my mother's son and then we live like strangers. Is this the ultimatum? Is this reality? Said Alla. I can't live in a house where I'm not respected, where they discuss my money and call me a fool. Igor went to his friends and did not return home. Alla went to bed alone, realizing that their marriage was going to be a mess. A month later, Regina Mikhailovna finally went to bed. Constant stress, changing of the situation, conflicts with her sister undermined her health. Tamara Vyacheslavovna called an ambulance and doctors hospitalized the patient. Nervous exhaustion, the doctor said. Depression. At her age, it is dangerous. Igor came to the hospital and sat for a long time at his mother's bed. She lay pale, crouched, and complained to her ungrateful bride. She kills me, whispered Regina Mikhailovna. Slowly kills. Mom, stop. Tiredly said Igor. Alla didn't want to kill you. Wanted. Stubbornly repeated the patient. Specifically brought to a heart attack. You didn't have a heart attack, Mom, just a nervous breakdown. Isn't it the same thing? Said Regina Mikhailovna. I could die from such stress. Igor sat and kept silent. He understood that his mother would never forgive Alla, but he also understood that his wife was right, his mother was really misbehaving. At home, he found Alla in the bedroom. She was packing her things. Where to? He asked. To a friend. Temporarily. Why? Because I can't live in a house where I'm hated, said Alla. You haven't spoken to me for a month. You look at me like a killer. It's not life. But we can try to get along. We can, said Alla. But only if you really want it, and don't act impolitely. Igor sat down on the bed and closed his face with his hands. I don't know what I want, he confessed. It seems to me that I betrayed everyone, both you and my mother. You didn't betray me, said Alla. You just didn't protect me. For 5 years you didn't protect me from your mother's insults. She didn't insult you in my presence. She insulted me all the time. She called me selfish when I wanted to spend money on myself. She said that I was a bad wife when I got tired after work. She hinted that I was unworthy of it, and you kept quiet. I thought it was a trifle. A trifle? Alla stopped and looked at him. Igor, when did your mother say something good to me for the last time? When did she praise me? When did she thank me? Igor kept silent. He could not remember a single case. She hated me from the first day, said Alla. She hated me for taking her son away. For working, for having my own opinion. And you knew it, but pretended not to notice it. What should I do now? Asked Igor. To decide, replied Alla. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of proving that I have the right to respect in my own house. She took the suitcase and went to the door. If you want to talk, call. But only if you really want to change something, not just talk. Igor was left alone in an empty apartment. He sat on the bed and thought about how everything got confused. He wanted to make everyone happy, but in the end everyone became unhappy. Regina Mikhailovna slowly fainted in the hospital. Depression was progressing, she refused to eat, did not want to take medication. Doctors were distributing it by hand. Physically, she could recover, but she did not want to. Tamara Vyacheslavovna came every day, but her sister almost did not talk to her. She only repeated one thing, she killed me. This woman killed me. Igor started drinking seriously, first only in the evenings, then during the day at work. Colleagues noticed, but kept silent. Everyone had their own problems. He came home to an empty apartment, sat down in the kitchen with a bottle and thought about how everything could have been different if he had told his mother on the very first day that she was wrong. If he had protected his wife when she needed it, if he had not kept silent for 5 years when he saw his mother humiliating Allah. But he kept silent because it was easier, because he did not want conflicts, because he thought that women would sort themselves out. And now they have figured it out. His mother is in the hospital, his wife has left, and he is left alone with his shame and a bottle. Allah lived with a friend and worked. She bought those trips she dreamed of and went to the sea. Alone. She sunbathed on the beach, read books, enjoyed the silence. For the first time in 5 years, she could spend money without thinking about what people at home would say. But it did not bring joy. She thought about Igor, about how to save their marriage. But every time she came to one conclusion: you can only save what you want to save. Regina Mikhailovna died 3 years later, not because of her heart, not because of her illness, but out of longing and anger. She never forgave her fiancé, never understood that she was wrong. Until the last day she claimed that Allah had killed her. At the funeral, Igor was drunk. He stood by the tomb and wept, but the tears were not only about his mother. He wept about the destroyed family, about the lost love, about the fact that he would never be able to fix everything. Allah came to the funeral, stood aside, not approaching the tomb. She did not pretend to grieve over Regina Mikhailovna, but she felt sorry for Igor. After the funeral, he came to her, ... They met again several times, but the conversation did not lead to anything. Igor asked for forgiveness, swore to change, but Allah saw that he could not overcome himself. Shame and guilt devoured him from within. I cannot return to a person who cannot forgive himself, she said for the last time. You blame yourself for the death of your mother, and for the same for me. This is not the basis for a family. But I love you, said Igor. I know, replied Allah. But love is not enough. You need respect and courage. The divorce was made a year after the funeral. Igor did not resist, did not demand his share of the apartment. He seemed to want to punish himself for everything that happened. Allah sold the apartment and bought himself a one-room apartment in the new building. A small one, but of her own size, where no one called her a fool and did not plan to give her money. She wore the same boots that she bought on the first day of the war. They turned out to be very comfortable and served for a long time. Every time she put them on, she recalled the moment when she decided not to give up. Igor finally got drunk, lost his job, sold his share of the apartment for debts. He spent the last years of his life in a communal apartment where he drank and cursed everyone, his wife, his mother, his fate. He died at the age of 42 from liver cirrhosis. There was no one to bury him. Tamara Vyacheslavovna refused, and Allah learned about her death only from a necrologist in a newspaper. She stood in front of the mirror for a long time, looking at herself in the same boots. Did she win this war? On the one hand, yes, she defended her right to respect, proved that she would not allow herself to be humiliated. But on the other hand, the price of victory was too high. A destroyed family, a husband who died of longing for his mother-in-law. She got freedom, but paid too much for it. Allah was sitting in her small apartment, drinking coffee and thinking about whether it could be different. If Igor had found courage to defend her from the very beginning, if Regina Mikhailovna had been able to admit her wrongdoing, if she had been wiser and found another way to reach out to them. But history does not know the conclusive inclination. Only facts remain. She was right, but rightness did not bring happiness to anyone. The cow turned into a free woman, but this freedom smelled of loneliness. On the evening of the day when she learned of Igor's death, Allah took out of the closet those very boots. They were still strong, although the skin rubbed off in some places. She stroked them with her hand and quietly said, "We won." But why do we need this victory if there is no one to celebrate it with? The boots were silent. Like an empty apartment. As well as her whole right, just, lonely life.